know if you see the questions when they pop up. We'll see. If not, but you can have it open yourself as well. I might do the same thing.
I think I'm going to open it. Okay.
For me, it's just a matter of, oh, we're live. Hi, everyone. For me, it's just a matter of making sure I have enough bandwidth. Hi, everybody. Sorry, we're just chatting. We could just keep chatting away, but we wouldn't want to do that without you. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Colleen Patrick-Goudreau here, author, animal advocate, and zero waste enthusiast. And I am really excited to be here today with Catherine Kellogg, who is my inspiration for this journey. It's really so funny because, I don't know, perhaps I'm partial to 30-day challenges since I have my 30-day vegan challenge. And, you know, one of the things I've talked about on this journey is that, you know, for all these years, you know, doing some pretty good things, right? You know, like we gray watered our plumbing, you know, I'm vegan, we drive a plug-in Prius, you know, I walk everywhere, blah, 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 we compost, you know, so doing pretty well. And just, it's amazing how there just were things that weren't occurring to me. And I don't even know what made me poke around and find you. And it would have been in the beginning of the year when you had reposted your 30-day zero waste challenge. And I was like, oh, I'm just going to do this. And started watching your videos, and it has just changed my life. And it's been wonderful to share this with my audience. And so this is just, you know, talk about paying it forward. You were my inspiration for this. So welcome. So glad you're here.
Oh, well, thank you so much. I did not know that. I did not know that you started zero waste because of the 31-day challenge I did in January.
I said 30, 31. Yeah.
Sorry, yes, 31.
I skipped a day. I don't think I ever told you that. And what is really exciting is, of course, so very quickly I just saw how amazing Catherine is and invited her to speak at the Compassion in Action Conference. And, you know, that you're local is awesome. So there were just all these things just coming together. So everybody, this is Catherine. She is fantastic. And so we're going to chat. Hopefully this will, you know, some of the things we're going to talk about is going to answer some of your questions, but this is your opportunity to ask Catherine any questions you have as well. And of course, you can ask your questions, and whatever we don't get to, or we can elaborate on more later. This will stay live. Well, it won't stay live forever. We can't be here live forever. We'll keep it on the Facebook page, and it goes on YouTube. So it is an opportunity to ask your questions. And even if you don't, you know, if you think of one later, you can still ask later. So, well, really, now that you know my inspiration, which was you, what was your inspiration? How did you start this? And how do you, I think it's also important for us to define really what this thing is, this thing called zero waste. So what got you started, and how do you define it?
So I started going zero waste officially in 2015, but my journey started way before that. In college, I had a breast cancer scare, and it really got me thinking about what I put in and on my body. I had never really paid much attention to the products I used. And a lot of the products we use have endocrine disruptors, which interfere with our hormones. And this can be in our beauty products, our cleaning products, the fire retardants in our mattresses, plastic, all of these things interrupt our hormones. And maybe in small doses, they aren't that big of a deal. But when you compound them and they're in almost everything you use, it winds up being a really big deal. So I really started cutting out plastic and got more into natural living, trying to find ways to limit my exposure to endocrine disruptors. And over time, I moved out to California, and things really clicked for me because plastic isn't just bad for our health, it's also bad for the health of the planet. And living here in the Bay Area, the litter and trash problem is just out of control. And really being able to see and connect it is what made me make the change to officially go zero waste. And I had already cut a lot of plastic out of my life, so it was a fairly easy transition. But I do remember distinctly telling my husband that I wanted to go zero waste. And his response was, but we already do so much. I really thought I was finally dating a normal girl. And he was really distraught. But years later, he realized that we were still normal, and we got married, so it all worked out. And my response was, yes, we already do so much. Think about how easy it will be to continue. So that's really how I got into it. And as far as defining the term zero waste, I think it's really, really important that we look at the history of the term. So the term was first used around 1972 for a place called Zero Waste Services. And it was a guy who was taking chemicals from companies and trying to give them to other companies to prevent them from going to waste. So it's an industrial term, and we've kind of adapted it towards the home. But the simple definition is sending nothing to a landfill, where the more complex definition is moving to a circular economy. And this is where we don't waste anything, and there's a way to fully resume everything back into the system. So instead of buying a new laptop and then letting that old laptop go to the e-waste center and buying a new one, you instead would send your laptop back to the company. The company would disassemble it for parts or repair it, and then send it to you again in a way that everything can be fully taken back.
Started in Oakland, Paul Palmer was.
Yes,
Oakland,
Paul Palmer.
How
Wait,
awesome.
You know him?
Well, no, but he was in Oakland. It was in Oakland when he started his company.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know Paul. I just know Oakland. And
Yeah.
I was so thrilled about that. I was just so thrilled to see that connection, because I didn't know it until I started doing my own research. Yeah, I love that. I love that. One of the things says in this book, what is it? Getting to Zero Waste, I guess was what it was called. One of the things I love that really just changed the way I think about zero waste was he defined waste as a good that we have stopped taking, that its owner has stopped taking responsibility for. And I love that, because it has just altered my perception and experience with what I take into my life. And if I'm not going to take responsibility for it from the very beginning to the very end, then maybe I have no business having it in my life.
Absolutely. I love that. Yes, I think waste should be viewed as discarded resources, because everything started somewhere, and it all started as a resource. So we really need to start looking at our resources differently.
Yeah, it's amazing. So, and it's not just about the end of the life, but it's actually thinking about how they were processed in the beginning, what they were meant for, what the end of life is actually, how it's built into the thing when it's actually being created. I mean, you can get into the really low level stuff around production, and I totally geek out on that because it really excites me. But when it comes to the practical aspects, obviously, it really is a matter of there's a lot we can do in our own lives. And it's really interesting for me, because even though same thing, right? I was doing a lot when I made this decision to, finally become zero waste. I really liken it to the process of what I really guide people through in becoming vegan. And so much of it has to do with perception changes. And so much of it has to do with, oh my gosh, this seems overwhelming. And yet everything we do has an impact. Everything we do really makes a difference. So I know you've talked about, I've seen it in your work, and I know that one thing that would be really helpful, I just saw someone put up, for those who don't live in crunchy California, she was doing zero waste before she moved to California. What are some ideas, and what are some, well, she's talking specifically about stores, but why don't you, Catherine, first talk about kind of your kind of initial guidance to people that you give to people who are new to this completely?
Yes. So I'm from Arkansas. And when I started limiting my exposure to plastic, I was still in Arkansas, and I majored in musical theater. I toured doing theater. I lived in Pennsylvania, Florida, Arkansas. I lived multiple places while trying to reduce my exposure to plastic. And you would be surprised if, when you're looking for plastic-free options, how sometimes you just don't really see them, because there are a lot of bulk stores or a lot of bulk bins all across America. When I went back to Arkansas, I found Kroger. Kroger's a very popular brand in Arkansas, or grocery store chain. Almost all of them had a bulk store selection within the grocery store. Of course, this isn't as, you're not going to be able to find things like maple syrup, but you can find a lot of staples. And I also have a great guide on my blog, goingzerowaste.com, called How to Shop Without Bulk Options. And it lists best practices for trying to avoid plastic. Of course, we don't live in a perfect zero waste world. There's no way for you to be perfect, and that's totally okay. But just by being aware and conscious of what you're buying is half the battle. And there are so many things you can do that don't require a bulk store at all. Just using real plates and real cups and bringing your own bags to the grocery store. There are a lot of things that are within your control beyond just food. So I tell everyone, think about food later. Right now, just focus on the other simple swaps, like changing out paper towels for cloth rags, or using real plates, using real silverware, just using real stuff.
I was saying recently that I feel like this whole experience is channeling my Little House on the Prairie.
Yes.
Or whatever, because it really is about getting back to that kind of simplicity and using real things, and it is so appealing. Like, that is so appealing to me, and just aesthetically, it has been so lovely to see the difference in my cupboards and my pantry and my refrigerator, to see everything in glass, to see things, you know, that are just kind of building this whole pantry around glass, like, rather than plastic and rather than all of these products with labels on them. It's been really aesthetically pleasing. And like with vegan, it doesn't mean like you have to go to a zero waste store. Like, I say this all the time. In fact, today's meme on my Instagram page was, you know, we need to take vegan out of the box, right? You know, an apple is vegan. We don't call it a vegan apple. So we can take it out of the box, and same thing with zero waste. You don't have to go to a special store. You don't have to go buy an item called zero waste container, right? There's probably a slew of things that we're already seeing in our own lives in stores around us that are zero waste. We just may not have called it that. We just have to step back and be able to look at it more broadly.
Yes. And I think it really does encourage creativity, because sometimes you just have to think a little bit outside of the box. So I always give this example about tortillas. I've seen, Colleen, in your story several times where you've made tortillas. And for me, I don't have one of those cool tortilla presses. I have to roll them out with a rolling pin, and it drives me insane. And there's something deep within me that just cannot stand the idea of making tortillas. And then one day, mid tortilla making, probably an hour and a half into the process, I was like, there has to be a better way. And so there's a tortilleria down the road. I've also gone to the local Mexican restaurant, and I just rolled up with my own bags, and I said, I would like chips and tortillas. And I handed them a pint-sized mason jar and said, and salsa to go in these containers. And they're like, okay, $5.
Oh my God, I love that.
$5. I couldn't get it at the grocery store that fresh or that cheap. And I have never made tortillas again.
And that good or that are authentic.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I'm glad that you took away a pain point in your life. That's very because none of this is about suffering. None of it. That's not the intention. And I had someone write to me who said, you've talked about how you feel lighter since you've been doing this. And I have had the opposite experience. This particular woman said that it just feels so heavy. It feels like I'm changing so many aspects of my life. And there are changes. I mean, I'm not going to deny that. There are changes. And I don't know if you experienced this, but I definitely found that I was so obsessed in the very beginning. Just so afraid to make a mistake, and I didn't want to throw anything into the recycle. I mean, just all these things where I just wanted to do the best I could do. And you lighten up a little bit as you realize it's just like being vegan. It is not about being perfect. It's really about doing the best we can.
Yes, I totally agree. I'm not perfect. I'm still not perfect. In no way, shape, or form will I ever be perfect. And I think realizing that you're not going to be perfect is just like a huge burden lifted off your shoulders. It's 100% about doing the best that you can. Because every change, even a small one, even if you're only buying lonely bananas, lonely bananas are bananas that are separated from their bunch. They have a 60% more likely chance of being thrown away just because they're alone, which is so heartbreaking to me. If you're only doing one thing, it still adds up. It still makes a difference.
I love that. Oh my God. Now I don't ever want to see a lonely banana. I'm going to buy lonely bananas.
I wrote a song about lonely bananas for Valentine's Day. I'll send it to you later.
You wouldn't want to share that song, would you?
Not right now. I don't have a piano, but I will send a link later. No, actually, I had I believe it was Poland or I don't know, somewhere in Eastern Europe. They were doing a whole piece on food waste, and they asked me if they could use my song on the radio, and that was probably one of the best days of my life.
I remember you telling me that, and I forgot that it was about lonely bananas. That is awesome. my God. Look at just the creativity that alone people that comes from living zero waste, writing songs about zero waste and lonely bananas. You two can experience this. Or just enjoy Catherine singing the song. Yes, and Gina asked if you can perform the Lonely Banana song at the Compassion and Action Conference.
I will take it under consideration.
Yes, I love it. So yeah, I love that. That I know I'd never heard of Lonely Bananas either, and who knew that? I mean, this is the thing too, is you do. I mean, there is so much to learn and so much to know, and of course that's exciting for me too. I mean, I really enjoyed the kind of getting deep into all of this, but then it just becomes part of your awareness, and it just becomes part of your knowledge. And I do appreciate what you're saying about the creativity. So I'm right now writing video, blog post, and podcast on cats.
Nice.
It's right. It really forces you to, I mean, because there's so many things I've had to change with my cats, and I want you to talk about your dogs. I know you have a dog. I have cats. So I'll start with the cats, and then I'll take your inspiration and talk about dogs. But one of the things I had said, so David and I, so we buy cat treats, and cat treats are not in bulk. I have not seen cat treats in bulk. And they were the ones that I get, the greenies that I get, they're in like a little aluminum bag, and I just figured they were recyclable. Mm-hmm. And I wrote to the company, and they're not, but they do come in a plastic, and that's recyclable. And it occurred to me that I did recently find kibble, dry food, and I feed my cats canned food, but I did find dry food in my local store here, the Food Mill in Oakland on MacArthur, and they have dry food in a bulk bin for cats. And I thought, that's perfect. I'll use the dry food as their treat. Like, it doesn't have to say treats in order for that to be a treat for the cats. So, right, just kind of stretching what you would normally do, thinking creatively like you did with the tortillas, and you can find solutions that you didn't know were there.
So do they view it as a treat? Do they view it as treats?
I haven't done it yet.
Oh.
Just occurred to me today as I was writing this post, and I texted David and I said, I found, just because I forwarded him that email from the Greenies folks, and I said, oh man. And he says, well, so the bin, that's recyclable, but that's probably not an option. I said, no, I don't want to do that. And so I texted him back and I said, I think I found a solution. So we'll find out, but I mean, we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out, and we'll find out how that goes. I'm
excited for a full report. That's brilliant. That's so smart.
So can you talk about what you've experienced in, for instance, having a dog? What kind of experience you've had with making changes? Or
Yeah, I think having a dog really hasn't been that difficult. I have a husky. She weighs 50 pounds, average size husky, incredibly energetic. We'd never bought her like stuffed toys anyways, because she would destroy them. I remember when we first got her, we went to Petco and we picked up a stuffed toy, and they're like, oh, well, if she ruins it in 30 days, you can bring it back. And I was like, okay. We didn't even get past the drive home before I turned around and had to take the toy back because she destroyed it. So I was like, well, we're never buying those ever again. So now we only buy bones. And even now we really don't buy them that often. She gets probably 2. We like antlers. And on our last camping trip, we actually found where a buck had shed his antlers. So that was great. That was just lying there. That was really nice. And you can buy bulk food at Rainbow and a couple other co-ops, but because she's so large, the idea of me carrying 60 pounds of bulk food on my back every other month through public transit, I personally have not, I don't feel that committed. So I buy her food through Open Farm, which is partnered with TerraCycle. So that way I can send the bags back. That way they can be recycled. There's another brand, TLC, which is fully recyclable. And as far as dog poop goes, they do make certified compostable bags, which we buy. Unfortunately, that's only really, really beneficial if you have access to doggy poo composting service, which the only place I know of that offers that is Boulder, Colorado. So if you're in Boulder, awesome. You can do that. You can also compost in your backyard. And whenever we let her out before we leave the house, hoping that she'll go in the backyard. And if she goes in the backyard, we compost it. But if we're out, then of course we pick it up and we do throw it away. But I find that letting her out and composting has cut down significantly on the amount of waste that we're producing.
Wasn't there a time when we used to just use like newspaper to pick up dog poo?
Yes, I do know of several. I know some people even pick it up with toilet paper and take it home and flush it because dog poop can be compost or can be flushed. Cat poop can't, but dog poop can. But typically when we're out on our walks, because she's a husky, we walk long and far, and I'm not sure I could hold on to poop in newspaper for that long.
Right.
I don't.
Sure. It was just more of a, just kind of thinking about it.
No, great suggestion. But, that's the other thing about zero waste is there's typically more than one solution to a problem. And it's really all about what works best for you and your situation.
Well, I've been asking all these questions and we've all these comments and questions. So I'll start with Melody, who asks, she's talking to Heather, asking about shampoo. It looks like someone's chatting around here, but can you talk about hair products?
Yes, I believe, Colleen, that we use the same line of hair products, which is Plain products, and they are fabulous. It's vegan. It comes in an aluminum bottle, and the way the company works is you can send it back, they'll sanitize it, and they'll reuse it. And it's a really, really great closed loop system, especially because aluminum is the type of metal that has 100% recycle rate with no loss of quality. So if anything ever happens where these bottles get punctured, you can be pretty safe to assume that it's going to be reused again in some other way.
I know, it's great. I love it. What about, do you use any other hair products besides shampoo or conditioner, whatever you use? Do you use anything else?
When I got married, I bought some hairspray, but I've had it now for 18 months. And I still have it. It's called Rahua. It did come in a plastic bottle, but I specifically bought it for the bottle because once it runs out, I can make my own. And I have tested. I do have a recipe for it. I've tested a recipe, so I'm prepared whenever I run out. I can put it in that bottle, but I really don't use a lot of hair care products. I'm very fortunate. I wake up like this.
God, didn't talk about this at dinner. I hate you for that. Same experience at all. Ugh. When I say hate, I mean that in a loving way. I don't
Of course. No offense taken.
All right, let's see. Someone said that their store takes lonely bananas and puts them in a paper bag and discounts them. So that's probably why we see them in bags. I just never knew they were called lonely bananas. It's adorable.
I mean, I named them that. They might have a more professional name. I don't know.
No, you named them that?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Oh, I love it. This is a trademark. Okay. Celia says, we stay away from bulk food that doesn't need to be cooked due to contamination. I had a bad experience many years ago. What are your thoughts on raw bulk food and potential contamination?
Well, I've been pretty severely allergic to dairy my entire life. So I don't know if you mean cross-contamination as far as like allergies. And in that case, yeah, I'd probably stay away from bulk food because allergies are serious. I mean, health always comes first. If you're just speaking about you're afraid of contamination, like, mealworms or something getting into the flour, then I think that really depends on how much you trust the grocery store. And my recommendation would be to chat with the person in charge of the bulk section, because typically they're pretty honest, and make sure that you're going to a place that really honors the system and buys fresh food and keeps it cleaned out and takes care of everything.
Yeah, and it sounds like if the issue is things that it's bulk foods that can't be cooked, like nuts or something, or seeds, you talked about, Celia, then the cooked foods you do get in bulk. I mean, you do the best you can. You do what you can. Christine has an interesting question. She said, what's more important to consider, organic or bulk, no plastic, but not organic? Organic or bulk, no plastic, but not organic?
I think that comes back to, it depends. Knowing where my food comes from is pretty important. So, and I go to the farmer's market a lot and being able to talk with the farmers. There are a lot of farmers that aren't certified organic, but are also certified sustainable. And I think it really just depends on trust and doing whatever you view as best. That's a really loaded question. So it just comes down to really looking at who grew it and how it was grown, and if you think that's the best option for you at the moment.
Yeah, and I think also it's important, Christine, to know what things are heavily sprayed. Not everything is heavily sprayed. I've talked about this when I've talked about blueberries, for instance. Strawberries do tend to be heavily sprayed, so I would never get strawberries that are not organic because I know that they're heavily sprayed crop. Blueberries don't tend to be sprayed, so I'm okay getting non-organic blueberries. And again, it doesn't mean you have to become an expert in what's organic and what's not, but you tend to get to know what's organic and what's not. And yeah, I mean, to Catherine's point, as much as we're able to shop, and we're very lucky here in California because we have farmers markets within a 5-mile radius every day of the week throughout the year. So I'm not going to lie, that is a huge advantage to living in a climate like California. But when you have opportunity to get fruits and vegetables and produce, and even many sell nuts, etc., in bulk, at the farmers market, at some kind of farm stand, then do so. And what I've been doing also, one thing that really changed for me was I used to get frozen blueberries from Trader Joe's religiously. I used to get tons of the bags because I love frozen blueberries. Not only to bake with, but I actually would just eat them frozen. I love frozen blueberries. And I really just made the decision I didn't want to do that when I made this change. And so I had to wait for blueberries to be in season until I had blueberries again. And, what's wrong with that? Right? Nothing wrong with that. It made me then focus on the foods that were in season and have some delayed, gratification for the blueberries. Now blueberries are in season and I'm freezing them. I'm putting them in them. So do the best you can. And Heather just mentioned the Dirty Dozen. And yeah, if you just know the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15, it really helps a lot.
I always joke that zero waste has taught me so many life lessons, especially about being more in tune with nature, but most importantly with seasonal produce as it comes and goes. It really helped me guide me through the seasons of life because it always signals that there's always something better around the corner or it's always coming back. And I don't know, I just think that's really beautiful and how it's really grounded me and put me more in touch with how things come and go.
No, I totally agree. I absolutely agree. There have been so many life lessons that have come from this, and being open to that. If you can get past feeling overwhelmed, you can get past feeling like this is just, too much, or that you're trying to be perfect. You will find so many gifts in this journey, and I can attest to that as well. I love that. Let's see. Christine says, I enjoy sharing my ongoing journey whenever I can. I feel like I'm planting little seeds and I hope they take root. It's been overwhelming, but it's exciting. And then, Melody does ask about kitten litter. So you're going to have to wait for the upcoming, blog post and video and podcast that I'm working on for this. So I did change the cat litter I've been using. I was using clay-based for years. Conscious little me was using clay-based litter for all these years. And I've since switched to it's a brand called OcoCat. And it uses basically wood shavings from sustainable or felled trees or just leftover lumber. And that's really been amazing. I had, you slowly transition the cats and they've taken to it really beautifully. Now, around the cat poop and what to do with it afterwards, of course, as Catherine said, there's an issue. And I actually, I'm working this out because I really want to give a more nuanced answer, as I often do, to the cat poop issue. And the issue really has to do with toxoplasmosis, which is in, cat feces, but only if the cat feces is contaminated with toxoplasmosis or with the bacteria, the parasite that causes toxoplasmosis. So it's not that every cat has it. It's you can get your cat tested, and it actually can be taken care of with antibiotics. And so if your cats tend to be indoor cats, if they don't eat raw meat, and if they don't hunt, it's very unlikely that your cats would be carrying this parasite. And the parasite doesn't last very long in the feces. And so the issue with this particular parasite is that as people were flushing it, and especially in California, the treated sewage would go into the waterways, and it was affecting marine life, and it was affecting otters in particular. And so, so rightfully, California, now it's mandated that litter, even if it's flushable, has to say that it's there's a concern for marine life. It can't they're not arresting people, but they're encouraging people to do the right thing based on the information they have. But I think it's, if we just say cat poop is bad, and not that you were saying this, then we don't have enough information. And I think having the right information, because if we can flush, because unfortunately that parasite doesn't get treated in the sewage plants. That's the issue. Of course, it would get treated just the way human feces would get treated in the sewage plant, but that particular parasite doesn't tend to get taken care of. So all that's to say, if you have an indoor cat, if your cat doesn't eat raw meat, if your cat eats cooked meat, if your cat doesn't go outside and hunt, and you can also get your cat tested, it's pretty unlikely that they would be carrying this parasite.
That is so good to know. I had absolutely I don't have a cat, but I had absolutely no idea. That's great to know.
Yeah, just really helpful. So so that litter melody, you can find OkoCat at the OkoCat website. So just type in OkoCat. Oko means eco in German. So OKO cat. And so you can go to their website. They do sell it on Amazon. It's much more expensive. And Chewy.com does sell it. However, I called around, because you can go to the OkoCat's website and you can actually find stores that carry it. And my local, I said to Catherine, my local pet store, like locally owned, I love Pet Food Express, which is more franchise-based, and they do tend to be locally owned, and they're awesome people who run Pet Food Express, even though it's technically a chain. It's really franchise more than a chain. I love them, and I love being able to support local, independently owned companies as well. Well, just like with the food mill, I had completely forgotten about the food mill for years, moving out of that neighborhood. Going zero waste completely reminded me of it again. And then looking for OkoCat, discovered the Paws and Claws, which is a pet store that I used to go to years ago, again, in that old neighborhood. They carry it, and they just ordered it for me, and I'm going to go and pick it up tomorrow.
That's awesome. I love that.
Oh, so Melody, you can call around, you can go find out some stores and see if they can carry for you. So very exciting things. So, so someone was talking about composting and food waste. So you said that was something you tell people to worry about later. Talk about food, talk about going out to eat, talk about, you already mentioned farmers markets. Obviously, you're bringing your own bags to farmers markets. What about when you're going out to a restaurant? Talk about some of the strategies you use for that.
I find that most sit-down restaurants have real plates. So typically you're pretty good on that front. Paper napkins tend to be sometimes common. And if you can get to them before they set your table, you can ask for no paper napkin and bring your own cloth napkin. But if you're there and they have a paper one, once it's on the table, it's dead, which means they're not going to reuse it. So I just take it home and I compost it. So that way I don't have to worry about it being wasted. And then whenever I order my drinks, I always ask for no straw. And typically they're pretty good at remembering. I've got my reusable straw right here. This is the glass straw. The glass straws are my absolute favorite. So if you'd like straws or need straws, I know a lot of people need straws. Reusables are a great option for you. And they're really nice for smoothies, because without a straw, I would get a smoothie all over myself.
Yeah. Hold on, keep talking. I'm going to actually just move my location because my battery's getting low. So talk a little bit more about what else you do at restaurants, and I'll be right back.
And I'm going to scoot over because as the sun is setting, I am getting more and more in the light. So talking about other things as far as food, I believe she was talking about composting and food waste. So food waste is huge. If food waste were a country, it would be the third largest contributor to climate change. So composting is one of the best ways that you can prevent that, because methane, so many facts in my brain right now. So food waste, it cannot decompose in a landfill. Organic matter cannot break down because there is no air. It isn't aerated properly. So instead it releases methane. And methane is 30% more powerful than CO2, carbon dioxide. And one of the best things we can do for the environment is compost. Almost 60% of all matter in a person's trash can is organic and can be composted. There are typically a few really simple ways for you to compost. Sometimes it's easy as calling your local municipal waste management collection. Sometimes they have composting that's offered. You can plug in with a local gardening group. They'll often take compost. If you do go to a farmer's market, many times if you just chat with the farmer, you can bring your compost scraps to them and they will compost them for you. Typically, the farmer's market, you'll see these big boxes of like scraps. That's compost. So you could just bring it, give it to them, put it in that box. They'll take it home, compost it, turn it into more veggies. Of course, there are several backyard systems. I have the Lazy Man system, which is the standalone bin. It is just a bin, and you open it and you just put your scraps in, and then occasionally, whenever you feel like it, you water it and then you turn it around. It will take forever to decompose, but being a bad composter is better than not composting at all.
Bad composter. Yeah, for those who you probably know, I just did a whole series on food waste, and you can learn more about composting, and I get very excited about composting. But that was a big significant change in my life as well, is that we stopped using plastic liners in our kitchen garbage can because we don't put any wet, and we don't put anything that's organic, no organic matter in the garbage can. That was significant. So reducing food waste in the home is there's so much to do, because a lot of it starts with just like, first of all, eating what you have, buying what you need, not buying more than you need. I mean, there's so many little things you can do that you don't even realize what we're doing before we start paying attention.
And there are so many delicious ways to eat your food scraps. I always recommend that people ask themselves, before you put it in the compost, you should ask yourself, can I eat this? Like, I love carrot top pesto. It's one of my favorite things. Instead of pine nuts, I use pistachios. Oh my gosh, it is so good. And there are just so many creative ways that you can use your food scraps before you even get to that stage.
Yeah, even like I used to cut the tops of the leaves off of the strawberries. They can totally go in a smoothie. I mean, I'm not going to eat them plain, to be honest. I'm not just going to eat them raw. But throwing them in a smoothie, they're fantastic and they're super nutritious. Things that you used to, because that's the thing too, is that I used to say, again, patting myself on the back, not too much, but enough to go like, no, I'm composting. It's all good, right? Because we have a city compost system here in Oakland, and we're very lucky, and Berkeley has that, et cetera. But the idea isn't to like have this overabundance of things that you can compost. The idea is to reduce the amount that you're creating in the first place, and then what you do have left over, being able to dispose of that in a responsible way, like composting.
Strawberry tops are great for digestion, and I steep mine in water and drink it with water, or sometimes I actually just eat the strawberries whole. Like, I don't even take them off. I just eat them.
Wow. Yes, you're just a much better person than I am. Look into that. It's not a competition.
I think it's just that I'm really lazy and I just don't want to cut them off or take them off. I found that zero waste has enabled me to be incredibly lazy and has also reinforced several bad habits, because sometimes if there's only like 3 bites left, I'm just like, zero waste.
That is true. I actually have to say, and I have to say my husband has actually been really good with that, where I don't let anything stay on the plate. I mean, not when we're at home. At home, we can put it in the fridge. But when we're out, I'm like, there are 3 bites. You are finishing those 3 bites. And he's like, okay.
And it allows me to do laundry way less, because I just keep rewearing the same clothes over and over again. True. Sometimes I don't wash my hair for like, zero waste.
Whatever, and then it still looks fabulous. Fabulous. Okay, let's take one more question from Mika, asking about tips for apartment living. Trash won't be picked up unless they're in plastic bags, and that obviously can be harder when you don't have as much control.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if there's really a way around it, if that's the only way that they'll accept it. So yeah, that just goes back to doing what you can where you can.
Yeah, doing the best you can. I mean, if that's the case, that is interesting. I mean, I have to say, one of the things I talked about in the most recent podcast episode on food waste is that there are a lot more services these days that are tapping into people who can't necessarily compost at home. David actually just sent me an app. I'll put it up in the comments later about an app where you can actually find people that will pick up your weight, your food waste, your food scraps. And then they take them and they compost them elsewhere. So there are a lot of services. You'd be surprised. Again, if you're not looking, you don't know that it's out there. And that's why there are people like Catherine to be able to provide you with these resources. But there's a lot more happening. And it's really a matter of keeping our eyes open, asking the questions, doing the best we can. Don't do nothing because you can't do everything. Do something, anything. And everything we do really has such a massive impact. So, Catherine, where can people find you? Obviously, people can find Catherine in August at the Compassion and Action Conference, and we're hoping you can join us. But for those who will not be able to join us, how can people find you to continue to receive the benefits of your inspiration and wisdom?
Well, you can head to my blog, which is goingzerowaste.com. And then also I'm really active on Instagram. My handle is going.zero.waste. Don't forget the 2 dots. And I'm really, really responsive to comments. I try to respond to absolutely everyone's comment to the best of my ability. So if you have any more questions, no matter what the post is, just feel free to pop on over to my first post, ask me a question, and I'll do my best to get that answered for you.
Thank you. There really is so many opportunities, folks, to make a difference. And Catherine has so many resources on her Instagram, on her daily, Instagram. I'm going to say vlogging, but it's really Instagramming, if that's a verb. But honestly, on your website, I'm always so impressed. And I can tell you right now, if you start searching for anything regarding zero waste and how to implement things in your life, Catherine's blog will be one of the first that pop up. So you're doing an amazing job. I'm so grateful to have found you. I'm so glad to be able to share you with my audience, and I look forward to seeing you in August and hopefully sooner.
Oh, yes, sooner. We have to go on that double date. Yes, and thank you so much. You're wonderful. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, everybody, for joining. You can keep your questions going, and we'll certainly make sure that you get the answers to them, but definitely go check out Catherine's blog. So have a fantastic day, and we're the animals. Thanks for watching.
Bye.